China dropping stimulus bombs. This is Matt and Mark Justice from Tackle Trading bringing you Tackle today so that you can have all of the charts, the analysis, the big stories in just a few minutes so you can be totally informed on what is going on in the market. Matt, China overnight, they cut interest rates. They allowed funds to buy stocks. They provided liquidity measures. They did everything except maybe dropping, helicopter money from the sky. Can you see where FCX's price movement is? No, because it gapped up so high. But you do notice that power candle on copper. If you have a power candle on copper, guess what? China probably did something. And they are doing what Bloomberg is calling a stimulus blitz. Break down the charts for us, Matt.
Yeah, China is coming out. It's not like they just came out and shocked the world. They've been hitting at this stimulus for the last couple weeks or so, and they did not. They kind of satisfied the place over there in China. Obviously, they stopped short of doing direct stimulus to the people, i.e., helicopter checks. But helicopter checks are extremely inflationary based. They have a tendency to create velocity of money. They don't create as much economic activity, but when you provide economic stimulus to the actual marketplace, the economic system, the money has a tendency to flow through the economic system, create velocity of money instead of just all of a sudden it's there, and you have a tendency to create a little bit more lasting economic value. So they came out today and did a massive stimulus program, no doubt about that, in the S&P 500. And we'll get to the charts there as we look at the global markets. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about FCX as well. But when you are looking at the general marketplace here in the United States, we have three consecutive doji-based candles, slowing momentum-based candles, narrow-based candles, however you want to describe that. You just have not picked that next momentum yet in the marketplace, and you're just simply hesitating a little bit underneath a intraday level of resistance and a fairly clean intraday level of resistance. And so you're simply looking at this level of resistance and saying, all right, market, do whatever you want. But once you get above that 57.97, 57.95 level, let's get ready to giddy up and go, 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 like we like to say at Tackle Trading. And so I see the development of the overall general pattern in the market the last 3 days as constructive. It's allowing the 9 EMA to catch up to it. The 5 EMA is already catching up to it. You haven't really seen any volatility following that breakout, which is typically a sign that the market is playing defense
That's usually a
on the
really good
breakout
sign.
channel.
Yeah, it's really
And so
usually.
it's a decent consolidation secondary technical pattern as we're navigating this multiple time frame breakout from last week.
Yeah, I know. And they don't want to give referring to the algos tech the lead. I mean, we've seen RSP relative strength the last 2 days, while the broad market's been consolidating. Same general pattern though on your average stock, isn't it?
Yeah, you do see a little bit of a relative
It's
outperformance.
nuanced.
Yeah,
It's
it's a little bit. It's not necessarily something you would anchor against as of right now, but you are seeing a little bit of separation there. But I would say that separation is based on the Chinese news that did come out, because you did see sizable movements in the industrial areas of the market. And so from a cyclical perspective,
I know my Cleveland Cliffs position is
oh,
actually
it
up
was
on
it was
it's actually
cyclical
up
across
on the day.
right? And so on that cyclical side of the equation, you did see some pretty decent jumps in basic materials here, industrials here over the last couple of days. So from an industrial and basic material perspective, you are seeing relative outperformance over the last couple of days. I think that's a direct relationship to the Chinese news coming into the market.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we had some economic news here at home. A couple of data points in consumer confidence in Richmond Manufacturing Index. Now, both of these missed pretty good. Richmond Index, that's the lowest reading you've had since COVID. Consumer confidence was the biggest month over month drop since August of 2021. So, two negative data points. You've had a string of positive beats, though, recently. Now, neither of these are major, like, oh my goodness, oh, what should we do type economic reports, but they will add a little bit to the wall of worry. They will make economic data coming up particularly labor market data next week.
Yeah,
More
nobody cares
important.
about them today, quite frankly. But
Yeah,
if labor misses,
yeah.
we will look at this moment
Isn't
and
that, that's
reference
exactly
this.
what happens,
Yeah,
right? If
yeah,
labor misses, then all of a sudden these in hindsight
it
become more
becomes more
important.
important. Yeah,
But if
but
labor doesn't miss,
nobody's going to price in a secondary economic report when we're having a macro economic conversation. And so consumer confidence dropping, and it dropped quite a bit. It was the biggest drop we've seen percentage wise since I believe 2021. And so it was a sizable miss on the confidence side of the equation. But you're absolutely right, Mark. When you're having this macroeconomic conversation a little bit, as the Fed did just kickstart the rate cutting cycle, it's not going to be a leading catalyst in the market. But if some of the bigger economic reports do miss, these do become context for that.
and that's the great word is context. There are things you make note of when we write the newsletter. We list
Yes.
out everything. It's like, all right, this is where we're at. Labor market next week, though, is going to be very interesting. On the individual stock micro level, Micron, who reports after nights, I'm looking forward to that. Biggest earnings report of the week, reports after the bell on Wednesday. But what do you have for us in news today?
Yeah, we got
Besides Chinese stocks
I could
skyrocketing.
have listed every single
You literally
commodity
could have
and
listed every
Chinese stock.
Chinese stock.
Yes, I could have. Yeah, but I was absolutely going to list out BABA because that's the tackle 25 Chinese component this year. And what a decision out of that to put Alibaba on the report is actually quietly turning into one of the better performers.
Yeah, better
AutoZone.
performers in the market, not just the Chinese market.
No,
Right.
I'm
So
talking the tackle 25 better
yeah.
performance, and that's a different standard than even the S&P 500. But in terms of AutoZone here, they did report a miss on earnings, a pretty sizable miss, gap down, found the 200-day moving average. Going to be an interesting battle at that 200-day moving average. Alibaba obviously was in the news as China is stimulating pretty much everything right now.
Yeah,
Most
and I
stocks.
have to make note on this, Matt, that the Chinese did two separate measures to directly support. Basically, if the Fed came out and said, "Hey, all you hedge funds here's a bunch of liquidity so you can go buy stocks," markets would like that, right? Not a surprise that you see Chinese stocks up on the news.
Yeah, and they would probably buy the Mag 7 the first on that side on that side. But yeah, it's been interesting in those Chinese stocks. There've been obviously all of them are up here today as the Chinese stimulus measures do take into account. Now, Mark, we've had a lot of Chinese stimulus measures. I'm not sure we've had one as big as this one. They've been inching for years now. This is a pretty big one coming out of
Yeah, it
China.
is.
And then on GameStop side of the situation, if you'll remember, just a couple weeks ago, they offered a 400 million, basically 20 million shares, raising in $400 million. Obviously, that has a negative impact in the short term, but now they are getting through that as well. When you do look at this from a pure technical perspective, AutoZone gap down, found that 200-day moving average, and then just talk about a
We have seen
candle
this,
here.
Matt, on retail stocks.
Mark, the first stock that came to my mind was probably the first stock that came to your mind, but Academy Sports from a couple weeks ago when Academy came out with the miss on earnings, and they gapped down, and then all of a sudden up, almost that is a telltale sign in every market condition when you get negative information but the market does not price in that negative information. Typically, it's already priced in that situation. So you saw that a little bit here today with AutoZone. Obviously, BABA is liftoff here today. Now, BABA on the daily chart looks like, oh my goodness, how are you ever going to catch that thing? That thing is just moving and moving and moving and moving. It's up 20% in the last month or so. When you're looking at the weekly chart, this is still a reversal type situation for the Chinese stocks, Mark. It's not like Chinese stocks have done absolutely anything since the pandemic. From the pandemic on, Chinese stocks are just down, 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 down. If this was a US based company, and I don't see the Chinese stocks the same way as I do the US companies from a long term perspective, but if it was, you would love these types of reversals coming through the Chinese stocks on positive catalysts. Obviously, daily chart is very overextended. You would love to see a pullback type situation, but at the end of the day, pretty positive news coming out of China regarding that stimulus in general. So AutoZone, interesting bullish engulfing candlestick. Alibaba obviously gapping up and running away a little bit. And then on the third stock yet, GameStop. And GameStop obviously had their share offering just a couple weeks ago. They had a negative earnings report a couple weeks ago, but it never bucked through that 200-day moving average, which is kind of flatlined there. You're looking at that as a little bit of neutrality between $20 and $25 with the potential resistance breakout right around $25 if GameStop is your thing. That's all we got for stocks in the news.
Yeah, listen, Chinese news is going to be big news in the world of commodities. China's the largest commodity consumer in the world. When they do something, commodities take notice. We're seeing that on the charts today.
Yeah, we are. We are definitely seeing that on the charts today. And we're also seeing a little bit of overall weakness coming out of the US dollar as well. China stimulating their economy. That might have a little bit of an opposite impact on the dollar, but not here today. Dollar's down, really fighting that support level. And in base case on the dollar, once again, as it holds, it's a major, major level of support. But Mark, the price action going into it is not positive for that support level holding. And so keep an eye on the dollar. It keeps on pushing down, 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 and it's like a boxer in the corner, Chucky, in the 1980s. Yeah, they take enough hits, they're going to go down. Same thing with the massively important support levels. So keep an eye on that support level on the dollar. When you are looking at the commodities, obviously gold having yet another positive day following the recent breakout out of the multiple time frame situation. That looks to be leaving the station a little bit here. Copper obviously having a day here today as it is extremely sensitive to Chinese data. In fact, copper is the most sensitive to Chinese data. China is by far the largest copper dealer in the world. And if you'll remember, historically, their first currency was the first currency to be tied to a commodity about well over 1,000 years ago now, and that commodity was copper, ladies and gentlemen. Silver, on the other hand, does not have as much of a liftoff typically as copper does.
Yeah,
It
but
does
while we're doing this video, I sold a naked put on SLV. So
exactly, because it does play catch up with gold in these environments, and it does give you a little bit more constructive technical data as well than copper does. So you certainly see silver as a positive. You do have overhead resistance at 32 that you need to navigate as a directional trader, but like you just heard from the cash flow guy, it was good enough for the cash flow side of the equation. When you are looking at silver again, the weekly resistance level right here around 32. Just keep an eye on that, because if you do eventually break that level, it does feel like we're going to get that 35 handle pretty quickly, quite frankly.
yeah, no, listen, commodities are something we have been doing for years and years and years and years. We are going to be all over this story and all of the charts and all of the ways to play it. Going to go over it. It's going to be fun trading lounges this week. Lots of healthy charts, lots of things. It's a dealer's choice market. Come be part of this amazing community. TackleTrading.com. Go sign up for that 15-day free trial today.